Here's a new character I'm working on for a new story I have written and for a new film. Let's see, the first thing I have to do is separate these pieces. And the reason for that is you want to be able to add bones to the character. So let's say you just wanted to add bones here, and you started here and then went there and went there and went there like that, and then two for the legs. Here's what would happen when you try to animate it. It would start doing weird stuff like that, and you end up with a real mess of a character. And the reason for that is each bone is taken a part of whatever is near the bone itself, so that affects the whole thing like that. So to fix that, you just go into each skeleton joint and erase it, and just like that. So that's why you have to separate these pieces, and the way to do that is to go select everything that will be part of that hand or that arm. So let's see, the knife is down there. I have to bring it up here so I could grab all those pieces at one time and keep them together. So I'm just going to put that out there. The knife is going to be part of his arm, so there's no need to just keep it separate, because it'll have to move with the arm itself. And then, let's see, I'll copy that knife and give the other hand a knife too, because that'll make it easier if he has to switch hands or whatever for his knife. And then I'll delete that layer there. That's unnecessary. But next we have that completed. So now we're going to go to the face. So I'm going to select the eyebrows, the pupils, eyeballs, and the jaw. The jaw needs to go separate though, because I'm going to have it animated a bit different. So I have to keep an eye on this character and remember where that jaw went. It's pretty easy though, but it'll go like that in the finished animation. You get like a movement like that. So I'm just going to bring that over here, and that's because it's a separate layer, unlike the eyes, which are going to be part of this here, so they don't have to extend out from the face. And I move the pieces pretty far away, this way that there's no detection from the range of the bone itself trying to latch on to the other sections. So I'm going to move this. Alright, that leg is there. I have to remember it. So it's right about there. Alright. And then, because then I have to piece these all back together. And I'll move that leg there. And here's his last arm. I'll just move over there. I have two hands for each arm, a closed fist and an open hand. Alright, now I could start the adding the skeleton process. And the way you do that is you just click on the main bone. And this was dragged and dropped from a file. You just take the PSD file and drop it right in, and all these layers popped up automatically in Anime Studio Pro 8, although now the program is called Moho, and it's from a different developer publisher. From what I understand, I haven't gotten the program yet, because this program works perfect for what I'm going for. Alright, so now the first thing I want to do is add a skeleton, and I want 3 parts for this torso so it's flexible and makes it easier to animate. And now that I have the excuse me, the neck piece selected, I'm just going to continue up to the head here. And I do want this to move a little, so that's his ear up there, so he can move his ear. Now I have to go back down to his face, and I want this jaw to be part of his face. So I'm going to add a bone for the jaw so I can move it up and down with this tool here. This is called the translate bone, but I'll get to that later. Alright, next I have to go to the shoulder bone, and now I have to get these arms in. So I'm just going to start here, and I want to stop probably right about there and bring the next forearm in, and then here's the hand. And I do want a separate bone for his fingers there. And now that that's drawn in, now I just want to go to his wrist, and here's the knife, so I'm just going to have that for the knife. And now I have to go pull this to this side, go back to this bone here, which makes it easier to just get this all lined up. And now I have to say, okay, that stops there, this starts here, and then the arm goes into the hand, and then that hand goes into the fingers. And now I don't want the fingers to be the base of this knife. I want the wrist to be the pivot point of the knife. So that's why I had to click back on the wrist. That's what all these bones rely on, the pivot point. So if you, for example, selected the knife and then I wanted to start on the legs, that would be the wrong pivot point for the leg. So that's why I have to go select the main pivot point for the torso, and now I could go to the leg itself. So let's see, I'm going to have one for the calf, one for the shin, and then for the foot, the shoe, I'll just have two. This way you could bend a little. And then I'll go back to the pivot of the torso, and I'll go to the leg again. Let's see, I guess stop right about there. And then there's his lower leg. And I'll test all this out if it's aligned and makes sense. And that's it for that. Now I just have to move up to here. Now bring these all together. I'll just zoom out. The first thing I'll do is press this button here, the offset bone, and I'll just bring the mouth right there. And now I'll bring this arm back to where I think it should go, and this arm right about there, I'd say. I could bring the head back down. I'd say, I think it was maybe right about there. I mean, I could put it here, or here, but it wouldn't be as aligned. So I think there is okay. And then that leg over there, and then that leg. Just want to make sure I have it far enough up so it doesn't disconnect when I'm rotating it. So now that I have that, I can test all the limbs and see how they work. So let's move all the limbs and make sure they bend nicely. That looks really good. And now the head, you can move the head back and forth. Is that the right position though? It seems a little low. Like, I think it should go up a little bit more. Yeah, I'll move it up. And then the torso, you could move that. And now his legs, let's see how they're positioned. That looks way off. I gotta fix that. The legs are messed up. That one's not as obvious, but in other words, I want the bend to be right about here, not way up there. So I have to fix the legs. And I'll just go back down to here. I'm going to click on this tool here, which is the translate bone. I'm going to shrink the lower limb. I'm just going to have to move it down further and bring this over here, and then probably just center this better. Bring it down a little further, and then bring that foot back down there. Maybe even adjust it, but I think I'll just stick with that. I think that's okay there. And then for this one, the position is okay there, but I have to move that down a little further, and then have that maybe be like right there. Maybe it might be too far back, I'll find out. And then that limb there. So now when I go back to the test of the character, let's see what happens, if that's a little better. Yeah, that's a better bend. That's what I'm looking for there. Yeah, that's good. That's what I wanted. The only problem is the leg might be too far up. See how it's cutting over his belt? That's way too high up. But this part is fine. I may not be able to go much further than that. What I'll do is I'm just going to rearrange the limbs a little bit. So I'm just going to pull this down a little bit. Push this back a little. Get that probably right about there is fine. And then the arm, that looked okay. I didn't have a problem with that. That arm might be too high up, but that's okay. And then the face, I'm just going to pull that up a little bit and then maybe move it back a little. Right about there is okay. So now I could test everything and see that's too much weight to that ear. So I have to lower the impact that it has, and you just use that tool there. That's called bone strength. So now there we go, it reset. So now you can go like that and see it doesn't affect as much there. That's okay for that. There's not much going on with that piece there. It's probably not going to move too much. It would be nice to have a secondary movement to it though. So let me see if I can adjust it slightly. And the way to do that is just maybe have this a little less impacted. Maybe have this here. And then have a second bone after that. Maybe something like that. And actually maybe go the other way. So let me take that piece and rotate it that way and bring it over there. This way he could maybe tip forward and backwards as he's walking. So if his head tilts forward, maybe this will go forward with it. Now I just have to adjust the strength of these pieces here. You could go like that and then it affects everything else. or you could have that a small impact and only affect that piece there, and then shrink the impact of that too. So when this moves, maybe that'll go like that. That's pretty good. That's kind of what I'm going for, something like that. Now with his mouth, I'm not going to have that happen. What's going to happen with the mouth is I'm just going to go, well, you can't see it here. It's only in the animation. But what you do is you click on this and move it up and down. I'll show you in just a second. Well, just a minute maybe. Alright, so that's it for that. I have all the other pieces pretty much where I was hoping for. And I'm just going to set the basic pose, and then I'll stop the video probably. Or I could do a quick walk cycle right here, which shouldn't take too long. But what you do is first thing you want to do is save all your progress so you don't lose it. And now I could close that if I wanted. But if you want to have his eyes blink, you just have to go to the frame 1. And what I do is usually double click on that and do visible off, and then press OK, and then for that off there, and then press OK. But actually you don't want to do that on frame 1, otherwise you'd have to go back into here every single time and do that. But now it set it up, so now all you have to do is go to frame 2. Let's say you want to have a blink, and then by 36 his eyes open up again. So then you click on that for that part, and his eyes open up again. So as the animation goes, you go scroll through it, and look, he's blinking now. But since this is just a starting position figure where I want it as a template for all the, well, not a template, but a base character, I don't want to preset any animation there for the eyes. This way, if I have him in a new scene, he could do different things. Alright, so that's done. Now I just want to have him have a more natural pose because he looks a little rigid here. So the first thing I'll do is go into actions, window, actions, and this little box should pop up. If you don't see a box pop up, it's probably off screen somewhere. I know in the Windows version it is off screen. You have to adjust it for this version here. Alright, so I'm going to click on this button here, which is called a new action, and that will bring up the action box. I'm just going to type in stand. So this is going to be his basic stand pose. And one thing I'll do is, before I get into any of this, I'm just going to make the knives invisible for now. And then I do want to work on those hands too. I don't know if I'm going to have them default like that or in the fist position, but I think we're just focused on this for now. So let me just see what this looks like. So here's his basic pose here. Let me have him his back arched a little bit further back, and then his arm. I was thinking maybe have that hand go back like that. That seems a little this seems decent. I forgot to put skeletons for the thumbs, so that's not good. But I'd like to select all these pieces here for the preset animation, because if I don't select them now, then when I switch to new animations, it um, won't register right away. So I select all the pieces here at first. This way on frame 1, everything's set. And then I do like to go into the translate bone and select the torso bone. This way that is set as well for a keyframe. This way it's got a origin point for your next keyframe. But if you don't select it, then it doesn't have a preset, and if you move the character somewhere else, then they're gonna have only that as a keyframe, and it's gonna be messed up a little bit. That'll make more sense when you're actually animating. Alright, so I like that starting pose. I think that looks good. I'm just gonna select these two and copy, and now I want to paste it on. Actually, let's check the frame rate. Project settings. Alright, I'm going back to 24 frames per second for this film. Guest of Evil, that was 15 frames per second. I wanted to try something different. And I liked the way it looked, but I didn't like when it's scrolling left or right with the camera. It was too choppy, so I'm going to go back to 24 frames for a smoother looking animation. Although you could do that separately. In other words, change the frame rate whenever you want. I think I'm just going to stick to 24 frames a second. Alright, so... Or I could go to 20 frames a second. Let's see how that goes. That'll also reduce the amount of frames you have to render. So I'm going to try that, 20 frames a second. That's a mix between the more choppy look versus the too smooth look. So it's like a balance. I think I'll try that. Alright, so now I have that completed. And now I just have to go back in here and click on those two and copy. And let's see, I think by frame 3 it'll be adjusted. So now I have to go in between, I'd say right about frame 30 of 60 is the midpoint. Now I'll just go back in, and this will be the in-between. So now he'll move slightly and adjust slightly. Maybe his ear will move a little bit, and then his hand will move a little bit. I forgot to put the thumbs on this guy. If I want to move his thumbs, I'm going to have a heck of a time. And then I'll click on that just for the sake of it. And I'll also click on the midpoint. And this piece here, this could move him up and down. So for example, I could have him go up here and it'll keyframe there, but I don't want to have him up there. I just keyframed it so it's ready for my next keyframe if I have one here or here while I'm animating. But this is just a preset action. This is going to save you a ton of time, so you don't have to go through this every single time you want him back to his standing pose. Alright, so there's that. And now if I press play, it'll loop through these 3 frames. So there it is. Now it looks a little weird because his front arm is moving, but his back arm, or his back arm is moving, but his front arm isn't. So I have to adjust that. And I'm just going to pull this out a little more, maybe like that. And maybe even adjust that slightly. Let's see how that looks. Looks a little weird with his arm motion. He doesn't need all that extra movement. So I'm just going to do a copy paste there. That makes more sense than having to re-click on everything. And now I could just adjust it. So let me see. Let me go there. Have that like that. I'm just going to bring his arms down like that maybe. So nothing drastic or anything. Alright, let's see how that looks. His arms are really moving by themselves. It just doesn't work. Normally this is easy, but for some reason I'm having a little trouble with this. Alright, so that goes like that. Just barely move his arms this time. And then move his head a little bit. In other words, she's just supposed to be standing still, not going all over the place. Now his head moving forward, that seems to be a bit of a distraction there. I think maybe his head should be stabilized. There you go. That's better. Yeah, I think that's better. It's just a standing pose. He's not supposed to be doing too much. Although I do want his legs to bend a little bit. So what I'm going to do is take that torso piece, move that down a little bit, and now I can bend his knees slightly and bend those shoes so they're slightly up. Bend that knee there and then get to that shoe there in the back. So now you get like a bouncing pose. There you go. This way it looks a little more animated so he's not so rigid. And then you can just take those off and look at it, see what it might look like. This is like slow motion. Yeah, that's good. I think that's all right. But I've taken up quite a bit of time right now. I'm just going to go back to the main line. You just click on that twice and it brings you back to this. And now here's your timeline. You could animate as much as you want here. And the way to do that, let's say you wanted to have that stand in there. You just click on the action stand. And now you see this button here, insert copy. You just press on that. And it drops your preset animation right into there. And there you go. Now you can do whatever you want. And next step I'll do is the walk. But that's going to take a little while. Maybe for another video. But that's it for now. Feel free to comment, like, subscribe, share, hit the bell icon. Hope you learned something if you're an animator or just interested in animation for the puppet style animation, stop frame. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.